Alrighty, let's do a sneak show for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. This is the Leafs Convo, Thursday, April 10th, 2025, Norman, London. Mike in Buffalo. Before we get into hockey talk, of course, you know, if you're looking for a vehicle and you're in southwestern Ontario, I am your guy. Low interest rates right now. Who cares about price hikes? Don't worry about it. We have the lowest interest rates in the car business. Things are flying off the shelves. The key is inventory. If you're looking for a car, and a lot of people are, from March, April through to May, now is your time, and I am your guy at Norman Oak Ridge Ford. Mr. Augello, the Leafs 7-2-1 in their past 10, 4 games to go. 2 wins, they potentially wrap up the Atlantic Division. That would be a fantastic thing. Last night's game in Tampa was just a wonderful hockey affair. 4-3 Leafs in overtime. Matthews to Knies, who picks up a hat trick, 29 goals on the season. He has the second most penalty minutes among the forward group. Man, oh man, sign this guy up now. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Norm. Well, if Matthew Knies could play the Tampa Bay Lightning, he would probably break Alex Ovechkin's record because he owns them. It just seems like he's unconscious when he plays that team. They needed every goal and all the good fortune that they could get out of him in that game, because obviously he scored a hat trick and they won in overtime. I think there were some issues with the game, not being able to hold a lead. I think some of the penalties that called by the officials were ridiculous. But in the end, they got the 2 points. That's the most important thing. But as we'll talk about in a minute, the division and the potential opposition of the in the first round of the playoffs is a big concern for this team. I think the little mini 2-game trip to Florida illustrates that, and I think the Leafs need to avoid certain teams as much as possible.
It was playoff hockey. Make no mistake about that. A 1-goal game in Sunrise, and then they come back to beat Tampa. You have to like that resiliency, Mike. They could have, I wouldn't say easily folded, but had they wouldn't have lived up to expectations with the division on the line and a lot of bravado that you want to develop before the next couple of weeks comes to a close and you get into the playoffs. That's the thing about the Maple Leafs. They leave us wanting more, and then when they give us what we want, we're happy, albeit for a temporary period of time.
Well, I mean, if we take the game against Tampa, they jump out to a 2-0 lead very quickly, and they sort of frittered that lead away. I mean, not to say that you could bury a team. They're a very good team. They're one of the best teams in the league.
Right.
You get up 2-0 against them. Not to say that should be enough, but you needed to continue to pour the pressure on. And, they get a goal by Perbix the killer is getting a goal at the end of a period, which they did. Perbix's goal, I think, was in the final minute of the first. And then they tie it up. Then the Leafs come back, take the lead. Then they tie it up again. And an extremely exciting but nerve-wracking overtime where, I think we've started to see Morgan Rielly play a lot better. I know that the people got their knives out for him. He did make a critical error early in overtime that Anthony Stolar stopped. I think it was Braden Point on a breakaway. But then he was integral to the game winner, because Knies sent him that ridiculous between the legs pass, and
right.
only an equally ridiculous save by Vasilevsky prevented the Leafs from winning the game. But then Rielly set up Matthews to set up Knies for the winner. So, some good performances, but of course, I'm going to find fault in some other things.
Well, that's what you do. That's why we pay you the mediocre bucks. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. OG's Converse. Like the content. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being here. Had Morgan Rielly coughed up the puck last night and the game had been lost, the narrative would have been different right now. But Anthony Stolarz was there to save the day. Stolarz is playing like a man possessed, Mike. I hope it's not too soon, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, I think he's playing well. I thought Joseph Wall played really well against Florida the first.
And that's good. They can both play well.
Yeah, but we're talking about here who's going to be the number one, who's going to be the guy to get the first crack in the playoffs. And it's obviously going to be Stolarz because I believe he's won his last 6 starts. But it's equally important that Wall be ready because, like I've said, the big concern about Stolarz is not his ability, it's availability. And you can say the same thing about Wall in terms of his health, like it's propped up over the last couple of years. But I would think if this team is going to make a long playoff run, they're going to need both of these goaltenders. But Stolarz is going to get the start. But like I said, I think there are some concerns, some weaknesses that have cropped up. And, I really think what was exposed by the 2 games in Florida, I don't care if Barkov is out. I mean, let's just say this. The Leafs beat them by a goal in Toronto. Barkov was out. Ekblad was out. Tkachuk was out.
Right.
Now they come back. They play them in Florida. Barkov is back. Reinhart was in the lineup. They didn't have Bennett. They didn't have Ekblad. They didn't have Tkachuk. They won the game. I don't want one bit of the Florida Panthers because all those players are going to be playing. Every one of them is out except for Ekblad, who's suspended, will be in the lineup for game 1. And I just don't think the Maple Leafs can beat that team.
Isn't it incredible? It's the style of play that the Leafs have trouble with. If you look statistically, Tampa is the superior to potentially all 3 teams. Tampa's got what? How many cups, Mike, have they won in
2.
the last several years? 2. Right? But the Leafs match up better with them. Why is that? Why beyond the physicality that Florida brings, the piss, the vinegar, why is it that the Leafs, we believe, have a better shot against Tampa? They've beat them in the playoffs before.
In spite of the fact that they have that championship pedigree and players like Hedman and Kucherov, Tampa Bay essentially plays the same style as the Maple Leafs. It's not a mirror image because, there's differences in talent.
Right.
But they're a top-heavy, top 6 team. They've got a pretty decent defense, but not great. They have, I think, better goaltending. But Vasilevsky seems to have problems against the Leafs. They're pretty much the same type of team. I mean, you're talking Kucherov, points, Cirelli, and with the Leafs, you're talking Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Nylander. So I think because they're similar, that sort of equals the playing field. The problem with Florida is they're a different type of team, and the Leafs, in spite of the fact that they added Lawton, in spite of the fact they added Carlo and Tanev as a shot blocker, there are too many bastards on that team. You have Bennett, you have Marchand, you have Tkachuk. It's just too much. And on top of that, you have Bobrovsky, who's won a cup, who's not the equal of Vasilevsky, but pretty close. So, Like I said, I don't want a piece of that team. If you can avoid them at any possible cost, you do.
Well, they most likely avoid them if they win the division. Looking at the path to a division title, it's within the next 4 games. Will it take 4? It's possible. Will it take 2? Well, that would be nice as well. And that would give the Leafs a little bit of breathing room and a couple of nights to let the top crew convalesce. And I don't know how else you would fill out the lineup. But if you've won the division, you've essentially called your shot. Looking at the bottom half, with 4 games apiece to go, the Senators and the Canadiens, I wouldn't say are they embroiled in a race for the last wild card spot there? 90 points for the Senators, 87 for the Canadiens. Jeez, on paper, certainly the easier path if the Leafs win the division and draw one of those 2 teams. But Senators are chomping at the bit to get the Leafs back, and we know what happened the last time the Leafs faced the Habs.
Well, it's a 3-point gap right now between Montreal and Ottawa. So, Ottawa's got the advantage. They both have 4 games left. The Leafs play Montreal on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm more concerned with what's happening at the top of the division. The Leafs got the point,
right?
Give them a 3-point lead over Tampa. Tampa plays Detroit. They play Buffalo. So does Florida. Then the two teams face each other, which could be, I mean, the Leafs will be rooting for a non-3-point game in that match. I mean, right now, the most important thing for Toronto is win at least 2 of the games that you have left. You have no excuses. You have Montreal, you have Carolina, you have Buffalo, and you have Detroit.
Montreal's playing for its playoff lives. I mean, that's going to be a nice test for the Maple Leafs to stay engaged in a playoff-type atmosphere with playoff-type consequences.
Yeah, but every game against Montreal is sort of that type of heat. It really
not like
has.
This, my friend. Not like this. Nobody predicted the Habs to be where they are.
No, and I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, even if they're in 26th place, they work themselves up into a lather to play the Maple Leafs. So I mean, it's gonna. I think there'll be a little more because there's more at stake for the Canadians. I mean, they could potentially clinch a playoff spot with a win on Saturday, and that would fill them with such joy to do it against the Maple Leafs. But I mean, like I said, I'm more concerned with what happens at the top of the division, and like I said, the Leafs just need to win a couple games.
Like the content, subscribe to the channel, guys. Follow us on Instagram as well as on TikTok at Leafs Convo Clips. Like our content there. Follow us. We could use your support, and thank you very much for doing so. So the Leafs with 6 20-goal scorers, Mike, an outside shot for 5 30-goal scorers. One Matthew Knies, who will soon become a very rich man, thanks to the Maple Leafs. We know it. 29 goals, 26 assists, 43 penalty minutes. He's tossed them, Mike. Shades of Wendell, brother. Shades of Wendell. He's 1 away from 30 goals with the hat trick against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Man, this is fun to watch, and to have a guy like that as an integral part of what the Leafs are trying to accomplish in the future, when players of his ilk are very few and far between. I mean, talk about keeping the chains moving and, you know, developing from within and having players that are not only contemporary to your success, but will be a part of your future success as well.
Yeah, but Kyle Dubas should have traded him 3 years ago, right? To get that player, that rental. I mean, I'm not going to.
It didn't happen. He's here.
I'm not going to ever forget that, though, Norm. I mean, that's those are the Leaf fans out there with sort of the short-sightedness. You don't trade. I'm glad the Leafs didn't trade Easton Cowan. And I'm glad that 3 years ago they didn't succumb to some of the fan pressure to trade Matthew Knies or trade whoever to get that last player who's gonna be the savior. It's like sometimes you have to keep your prospects, and he's sort of a unicorn in the sense that Kyle Dubas actually drafted a big kid, a physical player, and going back to his days at Minnesota, I think we knew that he was going to be. We didn't know he was going to be this good, but we knew he was going to be good.
And he didn't really fit the mold of a Kyle Dubas type.
No, because he fell in their lap. I mean, really, I think he did not have a good year going into his draft year. Remember, he slipped to the bottom of the second round. So that was an inspired pick by Dubas. And I think it's paying dividends right now. Now, the thing is, like you said, he's going to be a rich man. With the cap going up, with the Leafs probably wanting to get him to sign as long as an extension as possible, I'm pushing, these are the type of guys you get for 8 years. You sign him, maybe give him a little extra money, but you lock him in. He is not, there are not many players who play with the physicality and the speed and the skill that Knies does. If it costs $7.5 to $8 million, do it. Get it done. I mean, now, the unknown factor here, I've said this a few times, I think Matthew Knies is a more important thing to get done than Mitch Marner. Not because Mitch Marner isn't valuable. That's not what I'm saying. You have to worry about the offer sheet possibility after July 1st. So you must get him signed before July 1st. Work on that as soon as possible.
Real quick, thanks so much to our friend Chad Doyle. Riley seems to be skating in cement, and it scares me for the playoffs. What do you think the problem is? Mike, you referenced some of his improved play, and then, I mean, the guy had the game on his stick and almost gave it away. It's kind of the fine line that Riley's been playing on this season.
I mean, that's been Morgan Riley's dynamic for most of his career. He's a double-edged sword. Sometimes, defensively he's not inept, but sometimes he takes risks and he gets caught. I don't think he was skating in cement against Tampa. I thought he actually skated pretty well. I think it was one of his better games.
But he may have a great game, and we've seen so much lackluster quality play from him that is what we are going to continue to see, barring him scoring a Stanley Cup winner. I'm not sure how he gets over the impression that he's already laid out this season.
People have to have a short memory span when it comes to Morgan Riley. I'm sorry. I think
I'm speaking from the guy who dredges up all kinds of old
because those
Mike Augello.
Because those defensemen sucked. Corey Cross, Aki Berg, Anders Eriksson, Jyrki Lume, they all sucked. This guy is an all-star. That's the difference. It's like, my God, it's like, that's the thing. It's like everybody's like, oh, we got to get him signed to an 8-year deal, and then they sign him to an 8-year deal. It's like, oh my God, he sucks so bad. No, he's not having a great year. Nobody will deny that. But what I'm saying right now is he is their best defenseman. If he is somebody that, if they need a defenseman on the power play, he's going to be it. I still think that 5-man power play in the playoffs is a risky proposition. I would hope that they mix him in, but they might not. They might think it's too much of a risk to switch up things. But, that's the top defensive pairing on this team. The matchup pairing is McCabe and Tanev, and your top defensive pairing is Riley and Brandon Carlo.
Yeah, I don't think Simon Benoit is going anywhere, Mike. I mean, he looked good in the last couple of games. He's a big boy. Interviewed post-game recently. We're asking him about how he feels and whether he's hurt and banged up. He said he didn't give a shit. He was just out there for the team. Regardless of the mistakes he makes, that's the kind of mentality you want. Now, I know that Morgan Riley has a longer leash. He's earned it. But, I'll take that kind of tenacity, that bravery, and that dedication to the crest all day long. And, there's somebody there to back him up, or another player if they start to fuck up in the big moments. But I like that attitude.
I admire his, effort.
Right.
But sometimes he makes mistakes that make me shake my head. And you can't have that in the playoffs.
Why do you think that is, Mike? Do you think that this is a guy who's still trying to find his way, or that's who he'll always be?
I think it's
defenseman season, don't they? Sorry to
interrupt. I think that's the way he's been, the way he was in Anaheim. He's played better in Toronto, but I think that's what he is. I mean, he's not a high risk player, but he makes errors. And that's why he's a bottom pairing defenseman. They like him. They like him because of his size. He plays on the penalty kill. He clears the front of the net, but he makes mistakes. And that's where, I'm looking at, when McCabe comes back, and I think they're holding McCabe back because, these games, they're not meaningless, but why risk him getting hurt? They're probably going to save him till maybe the last game of the season. If you're talking about McCabe, Tanev, and Riley Carlo, if your third pairing is between Ekman Larson, Myers, and Benoit, you didn't even notice Myers because he didn't make any mistakes. Now,
he only played 7 minutes against
Tanev.
Tanev.
Now, I'm not saying he's great, and I'm sure Berube has more confidence in Benoit, so he's going to play Benoit. It's sort of like the defense version of the goaltending situation. He has more confidence in Stolar, so he's going to go with Stolar.
Right.
If it's me, I would rather go with Ekman Larson and Myers than Ekman Larson playing on the offside with Benoit. But that's just me.
Well, he's not running them out there for 20 plus minutes a night right up until they potentially clinch a division, only to have him sit in game one of the type of hockey that is just continuing that he's been engaged in for the last several weeks. So the good thing is there are options for Craig Berube between the pipes, within the forward group, and amongst the fence. Are they championship options? At first glance, no. But it all remains to be seen. What, 11 guys this year, Mike, and this is a bit random, 11 players on the team this year have tossed them. I mean, they're most likely a reflection of their coach. Like if this was Sheldon Keefe, would 11 Maple Leafs have fought this season? And I'm not to say that saying Keefe was a pussy or anything like that. But look, at the end of the day, seems like while these guys have a lot to prove, they are a band of brothers. And a lot of them aren't hesitant to throw them if they have to. I mean, was it Benoit fought Olivier not too long ago? I mean, that was, at least he went him, right? There's some bravado in that, and there's some, some respect to be earned, even if you get dusted.
Well, yeah, Braden Point, and I can't remember who it was that dropped the glove. I don't think it was Benoit.
And Matthew Knies tosses them too. I mean,
why
the hell not?
In the grand scheme of things, and the thing is, I have not changed. I love fighting in the game. I love when it's sort of natural, not like staged fighting. But in the instance here of the Leafs in the playoffs, it's just important to stand up for yourself and stand up for your teammates. You know that if they play Florida, which again, I'm hoping that they avoid, at least in the first round, when they play Florida, they're not going to be dropping the gloves with Sam Bennett. They're not going to be dropping the gloves with Matthew Tkachuk.
They have to push back, Mike. They have to push back.
Well, that's the point. The point here is Sam Bennett will sewer you. He will, he's dirty. He'll do anything to win. I admire that about him. I'd like him on the Maple Leafs next year if he becomes a free agent.
Right.
You've got to that's what you get guys like Scott Lawton for, or McCabe, or Carlo. How about it's the old situation with Wendell Clark and Pavel Bure and Wendell Clark and Wayne Gretzky in 93 and 94, if you remember.
Right.
Clark was going after Gretzky. That's when McSorley went after Gilmore. McSorley said, "You keep going after Gretzky, I'm going to go after Gilmore." Right. The following year, they were going after Gilmore. I think Gino Ojek was going after Gilmore, and Wendell Clark talked to the Vancouver bench and said, "You see that guy there over there wearing number 10? He's a dead man if you keep going after Gilmore." That's what you need. That's what you need.
He said it with such a deadpan expression. The thing with Wendell Clark is it was never personal, right?
No.
My colleague at Oak Ridge Ford, former London Knights star and draft pick of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Aaron Laub, was telling me, and he was a fighter back in the late 90s when it was just mad in the OHL. I mean, just big, long reach, fought everybody, including Brian McGrattan. But he was telling me some stories about Stu Grimson, remarking of how tough Wendell Clark was, not just because Wendell Clark could, punch back and fight, but Stu Grimson could throw them. And when he hit you, you'd know it, and generally you'd be sleeping. He'd hit Wendell Clark with everything he had, and Wendell Clark would just shake it off.
Yeah,
right? I mean, and again, it's the physical ability, but it's the mentality, right? And the Leafs are going to have to drum up a mentality of a fighter in any kind of playoff run they go on, whether it's short or long. So the thing with Florida is, just do Mr. Smiley Pants, number 34, and just smile it off until Florida gets into penalty trouble, and then we go ham on the power play. How did that fucking work out for everyone's for all of Florida's opponents last year?
Yeah, I know.
How did that work out?
I know a lot of Leaf fans don't like when Austin Matthews sort of smiles and at the opposition. That's just, they're trying to get under his skin, and that's the way he responds. I mean, I would just say this. It's like, somebody mentioned Max Pacioretty. Max Pacioretty will be in the lineup on game one. And Max Pacioretty, one of the things that he has brought to this team has been his physicality. So, who knows how long he'll be in the lineup.
Exactly.
But when he's in there, he's got to be a physical force. And that's what I think that they'll be looking for.
There's not a hell of a lot of other stuff to cover right about now, Mike, other than the Leafs have 4 games to go. I mean, it would really be shitty if the Leafs can't clinch this division. It's not as if it means a whole lot to us in our hearts, but strategically it puts the Leafs in a much better spot than they could be if they don't win the division. And Mike, you've made that clear. So Canadiens Leafs in Toronto on Saturday. the Habs are playing for their playoff lives, and they've been on a damn roll. It's good that the Leafs are going to be facing an opponent that's in a playoff mode, because this is how the Leafs have to be starting weeks ago. Last word to you.
It will be a good tune-up. Like I said, I think the Canadians always play at a higher level when it's Toronto.
And they're playing for something, Mike. They're
playing for something, but the Leafs are playing for something too. And it's just, there's no doubt in my mind the Leafs are a more talented team, but sometimes talent doesn't matter and effort.
Right. So Habs, and then it's into the Hurricanes. That's a sleepy Sunday. That should be a lot of fun. And then I'm just kind of checking out. We got Leafs Sabres, and who did the Leafs finish up with?
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. So
Detroit is going to have a lot to say about who wins the Atlantic Division, because they're losing tonight to Florida. Florida's going to win, so they're at 96 points. They're playing Tampa tomorrow, right? And then they play Toronto, and they always play Toronto tough. So I think the big game, like I said, the big game is going to be Florida-Tampa, and the Leafs are probably hoping that's not a 3-point game, but all they have to do. Just win, baby. At least 2 games, and the division is theirs. And then you pray that Ottawa doesn't catch Florida, because I think even though they lost to Ottawa 4 times in the regular season, I would rather play the Ottawa Senators than the Florida Panthers.
Converts, OGs, thanks so much for being here. It means the world to us. Like the content, subscribe to the channel, share what we're doing with your friends. We're on Instagram as well as TikTok. We're going to be doing more content as the games become more meaningful, 4 to go in the regular season, and then it's into the playoffs. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just go 2, 3, maybe 4 rounds, and 4 rounds would be the ultimate. But of watching our team that we've labored over for so long, some of us longer than others, finally reach the goals and the peaks and the plateaus and the highs and even the lows that we haven't been able to witness them ever achieve. As a byproduct of all of that, Mike and I would be creating more content. And wouldn't that be something, Mike, to be able to be doing shows like this after a Game 6 of the conference final, right? Knowing there's a Game 7 and just all of the interactivity that is just kind of ready to burst at the seams. It's there, and I want to be a part of it. So all we can really do is just support these guys and hope they go on a long run and we can spend more time together. So looking forward to it. The Sunday Spectacular a few days away. In the meantime, enjoy yourselves, and Leafs Canadians on Saturday. Doesn't get any better than that. For Mike in Buffalo, I'm Norman London. The Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford is out.